Hello, hello. This is Ariel with Airing It Out with Ariel, and this is our seventh episode. I know I've been slacking. Well, not really, just focusing on my main business, but I realize that it's been a little minute since I did a podcast, but um, I believe my last podcast, I want to say I said that I was going to discuss our melanin being our gold. And if I didn't, that's definitely on the menu for certain. But I have been super bothered by some other things lately, and I felt like um, they should take priority over that. And for some of you, perhaps it'll help you better understand um, why I feel the way I do about us richly melanated people, and why sort of I take the positions that I take. But yes, so this is episode 7, like I said, airing it out with Ariel. And this episode, which is going to be a two-part, but I would say, it's most closely related to what I call Despicable Business. And if you've watched, oh my gosh, annoying. If you've watched even one of, I believe it might have been hold on, I'm sorry. I believe it was my first podcast where I stated that I was going to, when I initially decided that I was going to do a podcast, I was going to call it Despicable Business because I have interacted with so many businesses like most people do, and I find the majority of them to be despicable. Just in and take this sort of asterisk, right? People run businesses, whether it's the grocery store, whether it's a record label, whether it's a department store. People run the businesses, right? These businesses are not ran by fucking robots or something behind the scene. It is everyday people that go to work, that collect a paycheck, that get on the phones and that cut up in your face physically, that when you go to their establishment, they don't know how to act, they don't know how to talk to you, they don't know how to interact with you, they get on the internet, they talk crazy on the internet, or just flat out refuse to answer inquiries that you submit in black and white. So, when I say despicable business, not only am I talking about the business because it is represented by its employees, but I'm talking about just people in general because, even when you're calling a phone agency, AT&T, Verizon, or whatever, the person, I'm a firm believer, I don't give a fish your city government. The person who answers the phone represents that business. So when they get on the phone and they get rude, they get disrespectful, they get short, they get condescending, I take it as this company is being rude, disrespectful, tacky, condescending because you hired this individual, you let them answer your phones, and they got on there and they cut up. Or I went into your establishment and whoever's standing behind the damn counter decided to give me a fucking attitude. So that's your representative and they represent you. I don't give a fuck if it's not Mr. Verizon or Mr. whoever or Miss who the fuck ever. The motherfucker who you put in front of me is who the fuck represents your business. So if they're tacky, you're tacky. It's that simple for me. So when I say despicable business, I'm talking about the business itself and the assholes who they decided to hire. So like I said in the beginning, that was going to be my initial podcast idea, was just flat out going in on despicable businesses. And I was going to call my podcast Despicable Business because quite frankly, it is so prevalent that I feel like when you don't speak on despicable businesses, it just emboldens them to further cut the hell up. And that's exactly what they do because not enough people hear about it, not enough people see it, perhaps even not enough people experience it themselves. So they don't have any good reason to stop patronizing these businesses, stop giving these businesses their money, or to look at these businesses as they are, and then to interact with them based on how they treat their customers or even patrons or what have you. So this is, like I said, this is a two-part, and mainly because I want to speak on my own experience, and then I want to speak on the experiences of um those close to me, and more specifically, my sister Ashia and her experience dealing with some agencies, some businesses, some individuals that are just despicable, period. They're trifling, they're tacky, they're liars. And like I stated before, if you don't air shit out, if you don't call them by name, if you don't call their business by name, then people go about believing that those businesses are good, they don't have no issues, they should be trusted, you should give them your money, and I don't believe that shit, period. I would much rather, I'm a firm believer in reviews. And I do take reviews with a grain of salt, because one thing I look for in a review is the bad things that people say, right? There's plenty of motherfuckers that's gonna give you 5 stars that you done bought and paid for. It's your sister, your cousin, your mama, your daddy, it's everybody else. But what I like to see is the bitching and moaning that's done. Then I look through the bitching and moaning for people that are complaining either about a person, they're complaining about a product, they're complaining about service. Those are the things that are important to me. And is the chief complaint or the chief complaints consistent, right? Is it a pattern of behavior by this individual, institution, organization, company, school, whatever? Is there a pattern of behavior that seems to be consistent? And 9 times out of 10, yeah, people, this is my theory. Everybody isn't fucking lying, period. Them are just the facts. If a bunch of people are saying you're trifling, you suck, you're trash, you probably are trifling, you probably do suck, and you probably are trash. Them are just the facts. So I'm very critical. I'm critical of myself. I'm critical of my flesh. I'm critical of all of us, because I feel like there's a certain standard, and a lot of people don't have any standards, but there's a certain standard of behavior, there's a certain standard of service, there's certain patterns behind people and things that I just believe should just be followed, and you need to be consistent with those things. And when you're not, then I put you in the lane that you belong in, and I leave your ass there until you show me that you can do something different. So like I said, Despicable Business, like I said, it's not just the businesses that you go out and you patronize. It's also the businesses or the institutions or the those entities that you interact with, or perhaps have been subjected to have to interact with over the course of your life, whether it be divorce, whether it be child custody, whether it be where your kids go to school, all those people or all those individuals, all those entities afflict your life, can afflict your life in a positive and a negative way. And they're not, a place that all of us would go and patronize. So when I say business, the business incorporates a wide range of interactions that you will have. So one of the first things, is I'm already in for a minute, but one of the first things I want to do is plug me, which is Goldface Family. I'm wearing our dedication hoodie, which is a tribute to my sister Ashia, where she had the world on her shoulder, one shoulder, and then she had her children on her other shoulder. And she gave everything she had to her children. If you knew her, to know her was to absolutely love her. She was an incredible friend. She was a better sister than even I am, period. She was my favorite sibling. I think she's probably all of our favorite siblings, to be perfectly honest. But she was the best sister that I could have asked for, and mainly because she wasn't going to kiss my ass. She was going to tell it like it was. If you didn't like it, too fucking bad. I loved her difference of opinion from me. I'm a critical thinker, but even when I would say something to her or pose a thought, it was like how she was thinking about things was completely different than how I thought about things. So even her being my little sister, I still learned a lot from her, and very much learned how to be a mom to my flesh by watching her and listening to her and learning from her as a parent. So, this is our dedication hoodie, a tribute to my sister. We have this in lime green. We also have it in black. You can find this on our website. Our prices just dropped. And then tomorrow and in the coming weeks, we will have our summer drip dripping in. So check us out, goldfacefamily.com. I'll put a link in the description so that you can go there, check out our store, and again, subscribe so that you can save. So that you can save on your order. And I believe we still have free shipping if your order is over $85. I ship the same day or the next day because I don't have time to hold on to shit. So I ship rapido. And if there's anything that you like that you don't see the color of, then just let me know. You can message me on Instagram, Goldface Family Apparel. You can message me on Twitter. I don't know if you want to really get into those shenanigans. But if there's anything that you see that you're like, damn, I really want a different color of that, or you're like, oh my gosh, this size couldn't possibly fit me. Just ask. That's what I ask people to do. Just ask the question so that I can, A, it gives me feedback so that I know what I need to go get. And then B, it allows me to make sure that I feel the needs of all my customers. So check out goldfacefamily.com and get you a dedication hoodie. It's getting a little chill. It's getting a little hot out here where I'm at in Texas. But I know there's plenty of states that, or maybe there's a few in the north that are still either getting snow or your summer isn't as hot as it is here, and you can still use your hoodie. So let's get into it. Like I said, this part one, I'm going to speak about mainly my experiences with Despicable Businesses, and this is more focused on divorce, child welfare agencies, and things like that. And I say child welfare because, like I've stated in the past, I was a foster kid. I was a foster kid for, I don't know if it was cumulative, I'd probably say maybe 4 years of my life, cumulative. So not all at one time, but just spread out at different portions of my life. Me, Ashia, and Akeem have all been foster kids at some point. And so I feel like I can definitely speak on being a foster kid, what it was like. I've been with stranger foster people, like people that I didn't know from a damn can of paint. And I've been in foster care with people that I did know, as far as like they were a family friend, or my mom knew them, some type of way. I don't really know who the hell she don't know in that tiny ass place. And I was a foster kid with one chick that we just happened to go to high school together. It was crazy. But her mom was a foster parent. So I've been a foster child, like I said, in homes with perfect strangers. And I've been a foster kid in homes with individuals that had some type of connection to my family. And so, like I said, when I say child welfare, I use, air quotes because, to be quite frank, and, I don't know what it is to be a foster kid in any other state besides Alaska. So I realize that certain states operate differently when it comes to their child welfare agencies. But most basically, I use the air quotes because they claim to be for child welfare, the well-being of people's children. But if you've ever been a foster child, or someone else has been a foster child, that how those businesses, because it is a fucking business, how those businesses operate doesn't really have shit to do with the well-being of the child. Like I said, being in a foster home with people that I would say that it's better in that the comfort level is different than being in a foster home with people that you don't know. I remember, I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't like 8 or 7. I had to be in double digits already. And I remember being taken to a foster home, and I don't know if this time my brother and sister were there. This might have been a foster home that just I went to, but I'm not positive. Um, but I remember it was the home of some white woman, and I was really upset because I was, in this foster home, and I'm pretty sure it was in the evening time. And so I went into the room that she kept her was for her foster kids, and I just sat on the floor and I was emotional, and she was trying to talk to me, and I wasn't responding, right? Uh, Even as a child, when I get upset, I'm silent. I don't want to talk. There's no conversation to be had. I just want to be with my thoughts. And apparently she took offense to that, and I believe she was like, I should have left you where you were, or I should have told them to take you somewhere else. And I thought to myself, this stupid, tacky fucking bitch. First of all, the fact that she couldn't fathom in her fucking small mind that this child wouldn't want to have a full-on fucking conversation with her. The fact that then she would then follow up her tacky with saying something like, I should have left you where you were, or I shouldn't have taken you in. Like, to me, that's an example of despicable. Here is a perfect ass stranger who thought this child that she didn't know from a damn can of paint should engage in a full ass conversation with her because she wanted to have it. She couldn't fathom that a child would be emotional and was shut down because they were upset about being taken from their domicile. Now, that's just one of the interactions that I had with a foster parent that I just thought was, this is fucking outrageous that somebody would think that this individual right here is somebody who should have anybody else's kids. Like, I don't know what she do with her own flesh, but the fact that somebody thought that this is where somebody else's child that didn't look like her needed to be, and then this is the type of shit that came out of her mouth, that exempel is to me of first of all, she's a despicable fucking person. And it was an example to me of, these people don't give a fuck about how these foster parents treat their foster children. I remember being, going to, so if you're from Anchorage, Alaska, and you're in your 30s or older, you now know OCS. Before it was called OCS, it was called DFYS. And the reason why DFYS had to change their name is because they engaged in despicable fucking business. They took folks' kids from their home and put them in homes of other people who mistreated them. And they didn't give a fuck. I mean, just like us. I remember going to DFY, and I like to call it DFYS because this is my thought. I don't want you, just because you rename yourself don't mean you ain't up to the same old tricks. So when I say DFYS, it's what you now know in Anchorage, Alaska to be OCS. And here's another nugget. If they still have those yellow newspaper stands in like the MAPCO or some shit, I don't know if y'all calling it now, but the MAPCO, if it's an older one, you'll see on the side, you'll see my mother on there. And that's because she did a demonstration protest march in front of DFYS. And she was part of the reason why they had to rebrand and change their name, was because of those demonstrations that she held and took damn near, front, took the front stage of protesting the shit that they do, the injustices that they do to women and sometimes men about their children. And again, not for the welfare, the child's welfare, but just basically for their own shits and giggles. Okay, so I remember as a child, I remember going to DFYS, and maybe we spoke to somebody in there, but if you know anything about, when somebody takes your kids away from you, your child will usually get a guardian ad litem. And the guardian ad litem's job is to represent the children's best interests. That's such bullshit. I don't ever recall having a conversation with the guardian ad litem that asked me where I want to go, that asked me who I want to be with, that asked me how I was being treated, that asked me was somebody doing something to me they don't have no fucking business. Period. Didn't happen, right? So how can you represent me just like a fucking lawyer? How can you represent me? How can you state what's in my best interest, but you don't have a conversation with me? Even if you don't believe shit that comes out of my mouth, even if you think I'm too young to have a thought, how can you be for me if you don't even have a damn conversation with me? It just doesn't happen. So all the time that I spent, cumulative and broken down over those different homes, I don't have any solid memories of me having a conversation with a guardian ad litem who was representing my best interest, who was asking me, critically thought questions, and then responding in such a way that would allow me to be in any space that was productive or that helped me. That just didn't happen. So that's one memory that I have, and like I said, that's a nugget about DFYS that I reckon most people don't have a clue about, why they have to change their name, and even fewer people even know that they have not always been OCS and that they were DFYS. And I know a couple weeks ago, this is somebody that I'll never, ever, ever forget from DFYS. And a couple weeks ago, me and my brother, Akeem, we were talking about, being in foster care and shit like this. And he brought up the name of a guy named Robert Warwick. And again, if you were a foster kid, 20 some years ago, even, perhaps you encountered that ass flake. But it was funny that even him, being 5 years younger than me, even he remembered what that piece of shit, or how that piece of shit was instrumental in keeping our family apart and fucking over our family. And I couldn't believe that he would remember his name. But I'll never forget his name, because I feel strongly about, you don't forget the names of people. Typically, you don't forget the name of a person who is instrumental in fucking trying to ruin your life or ruining your life. And you probably don't really forget the face. I mean, I can picture his face in my mind. He probably don't look shit like that if he's even living. But I can even remember this ass flake's face in my mind. But I'll never forget his name, Robert Warwick. And he worked for DFYS, and who the hell knows what his position was. But the position that he played was to fuck over me, my siblings, and my mother. And he was hell bent on doing just that. His motives had nothing to do with my mom being a drug addict. My mom has never done drugs in her fucking life. She don't do drugs. Drugs is not her zhuzh. Period. You're not gonna see her smoking nothing. Not a cigarette, not a joint, not a vape, not shit. My mom's never been a drug addict. She has never been addicted to anything, from alcohol to drugs to pills to shit. Nothing. She's never been an addict. Period. So it wasn't that my mom was a junkie, a drug addict. It wasn't that she was a hoe, because I can count on one fucking hand how many men I've ever seen my mother with. I can count that on one hand. My mother's well into her 60s. And there's a whole bunch of motherfuckers that can never do that. There's so many things that she could have been. There are so many things that, negative things that a person, there's so many negative things or reasons why a motherfucker will come and take your kids. And her reasonings, or excuse me, not even her reasonings, but their reasonings was nothing violent. It was nothing criminal, it was nothing violent. It was nothing drug related. It was something that I would consider petty, right? It was something that, for all intents and purposes, if she was a white woman, she'd have never been to jail about it, right? She would have got some extensive probation or some bullshit like that, but she would have never been incarcerated behind the shit that they claim was so criminal that she needed to be taken away from her 5 children and put in jail for, and then kept there for, I guess it was 2 years. I'm not positive, because when you're a kid, time is it's really warped for you. But I'll never forget him. I'll never forget his name. I'll never forget the role that he played in trying to destroy our family. But I'll also never forget that DFYS also played a big part in that, and that, knowing what I know about my mother versus other individuals' mothers that I interacted with, my mom didn't have any other problems that these other people's mothers had, in terms of a drug problem, a drinking problem, or their mom got men in and out of the damn house, or, whatever the case may be. She didn't have those same types of problems, and probably because she was older than them. But even when she was their age, she wasn't doing the same things that their mothers or fathers had been doing. So as an adult, when I think about the fact that my mother was incarcerated for some petty fucking bullshit, and I think about all the shit that I saw my friends' mothers or their grandmother or whoever engaging in, and I think to myself, so we had to be away from our mom, and these motherfuckers' moms was doing this kind of shit? Like, nobody thinks that shit was sketchy. Nobody sees the way that they had to live as being problematic. Nobody thought that these children probably should have been in foster care, or maybe their mom or dad or grandmother or whoever the hell was raising them, needed to have an intervention. It's baffling to me, but at the same time, I understand why she was a target. I mean, obviously, when you're an activist, when you speak out against motherfuckers, when you go up against, certain types of people, or certain people, period, or certain despicable ass businesses, period, they will come back at you with the motherfucking agenda. And, some people don't believe in that type of shit, but you don't have to believe in the shit, because it happens, right? And my mother wasn't the first, woman that's happened to, and she won't be the last woman that happens to. So that's part of my experience. The other part, I'll say, that was also something that I noticed at a very young age is, some people know my brother Otis. Me and Kanisha, obviously Ashia and Hakeem, share a brother in common, and that's Otis. And he died when he was a teenager. And I remember being in school, and this was after Otis passed away. I remember being in school, and I remember 2 teachers speaking to each other about my brother passing away, because we had the same last name. And I remember the 2 teachers saying, I think that's her brother. It was in the newspaper. And here I am. I had to have been like 9 years old when that took place. And here I am within earshot of these grown-ass women having this discussion about my deceased teenage brother. Not asking me, was I okay? Not comforting me. Not in any way trying to even shield the conversation, but having an open conversation in front of a child about another child that had been what I would consider murdered, period. And to me, that was an example of some despicable fucking shit. How do 2 grown-ass adults who are in school sit in front of a damn child and have a conversation about another child that was murdered in the middle of the fucking street, and not even have the decency to keep that shit to themselves, or to try to offer comfort to the child who had just lost her sibling. And I'll take it a step further. Not only did we never get counseling from motherfucking school, but then when we were foster kids, the school knows when you're a fucking foster kid, period. Anchor School District ain't but that damn big. They know when a child's a foster kid. And I know that because when I was in the 6th grade and I was a foster kid, an old friend of mine told every goddamn body that I was a foster kid. And that's because her grandma thought it fit to tell her granddaughter, another fucking child, that I was a foster child. So it's not, it isn't a secret when a child is, or when there's a child or children that are in foster care. The school is made well aware of the shit. And not one fucking school that I've ever been to, from elementary to middle school to high school, has ever had a counselor come and talk to me about either the death of my brother, or how I was coping with being in foster care. Not one. I don't know what the fuck the counselors do all day. And I'm not talking about today's counselors. I'm talking about in the 90s counselors. Okay? I don't have a fucking clue what they were doing, but it wasn't counseling and consoling melanated children whose whose primary care provider was incarcerated, or whose sibling was killed in the middle of the damn street. Not one fucking person. Not one and the thing that pisses me off further about Anchorage School District was the whole time I was in school, from 9 to when I graduated from high school, there was no fucking mention of the fact that a 15-year-old child had been killed in a damn accident. Now here you are, motherfuckers is drunk in Anchorage like fucking 40 going north. If you've ever been to Anchorage, you've seen a bunch of drunk motherfuckers everywhere. You see mad all over the damn place. Not one fucking time did an elementary, a middle school, or a high school ever damn bring up or try to use as a teaching moment the fact that there was two. They had to only been in high school. So if they were in high school, could only have been in the 9th grade. 2 9th graders had been murdered. Like I said, I consider it murdered. Murdered in the middle of the damn street by a drunk driver, and no mention. Not to use it as a deterrent, not to use it to warn people about the fact that it's that quick and that easy for somebody you love's life to be ended by a drunk driver, or by drinking and driving, or by, doing some shit you just have no business, being someplace that you don't belong being. But there was just no mention. And I also look at that was despicable. How do you have children that die in your school district and violently die? Not only do your students, but then you have siblings of those students, and there's no acknowledgement of that. There's no counseling provided for that. There's no use of that incident as a learning, as a teaching lesson, as a deterrent to other children, and say, this types of activities have happened. These are things that took place here. These are students that lost their lives because of this. There was just no mention of it. I look at that as despicable business. There are people that run the school district. It's not ran by a bunch of fucking robots. There are people that run that school district. And how can people who live in this tiny fucking town not want to shed light on and use as a teachable moment the fact that students that young, 15 and 16 years old, had lost their lives doing shit that 15 and 16-year-olds in Anchorage, Alaska are probably doing now? It would have helped me for it to be acknowledged, but I'm a firm believer in that it would have helped countless other people who either engaged in similar behaviors or have been victimized by similar behaviors. It would have, it can only help to shed light on those types of situations where children are significantly afflicted by their decisions. And here's another nugget for other despicable business is that the individual, the male who was responsible for murdering my brother and my brother's best friend, that drunk driver also murdered his best friend in that same accident. So I think he was like 19 years old at the time, which would have meant he was below the drinking age. He was speeding his car. And, like I said, if you're in Anchorage or you know about it, you know that after a certain time of the night, the lights just flash. It's either red or it's yellow. And red has to yield basically to the traffic coming the other directions. And my brother and his friend were going like this. It was my brother, his best friend, and then two females in the back. And then this drunk driver was with his best friend coming this way. So they T-boned. And the story that I know from so long ago is that my brother flew out the windshield and he was still living even though he flew out the windshield, but what killed him was that a car ran over his chest, and that's what killed him. So this is a 15-year-old kid, flew out the windshield, landed on the concrete, and then because it was the dark of night, another driver ran over him and killed him. And then his best friend who was driving, like I said, the story I've been told was that the engine of the car that T-boned them was sitting in his best friend's lap. And then the two people in the back were hurt severely. And then the drunk driver's best friend, who was his passenger, also was murdered. And the drunk driver, from what I know, got no time in jail. Now think about this. My mom never did anything. She never killed, she's never killed anybody as far as I know. But even more importantly, she committed a paper crime and she went to jail. This motherfucker killed 3 people in one night and he didn't go to jail. And subsequently, when I started doing research on this ass flake, I found that, he's like a serial offender. And he may not be a serial offender in that all his crimes are related to drunk driving, but he's a serial offender in that he is regularly has his hands on somebody else's shit. He's regularly engaging in criminal activity. He's a fucking menace. And yet, this asshole is still free to walk the fucking streets after killing 3 fucking people. Now, there's 2 main differences between who I would call a fucking murderer and my mother. That he's a man and that he's a white man. Period. Now, I don't give a shit who doesn't like it. How the fuck does anybody kill 3 people in one fucking night and not go to jail? I don't give a shit if my brother had ran the red light. The fact that a motherfucker could get in his car and be pissy ass drunk and T-bone another vehicle. And the other story I was told was that his speedometer broke at like 90 miles an hour. So he wasn't driving. There's no fucking highway in Alaska that's fucking 90 miles an hour. I don't know a highway in Alaska that's 70 miles an hour, okay? And I done been up and through that shit. Now, I ain't been from the north to south of Anchorage, but I've driven to Anchorage from Canada. Drove out of motherfucking Anchorage to damn Canada. I've never seen a fucking highway that's 70 miles an hour. And I've never seen a speed limit in Anchorage that is 70 miles an hour, let alone 90 miles an hour. So all those circumstances are true. This motherfucker was doing 90 plus, T-boned the car, killed 3 damn people, and got to go home. So a couple years ago, And to me, that's some despicable shit, right? I mean, there's no other way to describe that but despicable. Anybody that can get away with killing that many motherfucking people and take their ass home, that's a despicable ass system. Period. There is nothing else that can be described as but a despicable fucking system. A trash ass district attorney who isn't interested in protecting the public, because do you feel fucking safe knowing that you sit next to or driving next to an asshole who killed 3 fucking people because he was pissy ass drunk driving? Does that make you feel fucking secure? Because it don't make me feel fucking secure at all. And I definitely wouldn't want to send my child out in the streets knowing that this asshole is free to roam around the motherfucking tiny ass town that is Anchorage. Period. But what else I did a few years ago, when I was looking this ass flake, I forget his name. I used to know his name. I do have a picture of him in my phone though, because I keep a picture of trash like that. So if I ever came across that motherfucker, I would read his ass the right act. But I remember looking this ass flake up a couple years ago. It was like a couple years ago. And I saw that he was facing some charges. Shocker. He had some current fucking charges that he was facing for doing some shit. Obviously, he had no motherfucking business. And I called up the DA. I called up the attorney, whatever the fuck they want to call themselves. I called up the prosecutor. And it was a female. And I told her who the fuck I am. And I said, this motherfucker killed 3 people. And I don't understand. I said, I don't know what the fuck you're going to do with him. I said, but you knowing that he killed, or me telling you, and you can look the shit up yourself, but me telling you that this is what he did, I said, it would behoove you to make sure this motherfucker gets time in jail, that he spends a significant amount of time in jail because he is a fucking menace. This bitch's response to me was, I can't bring I can't bring up that past charge for what he's looking at now. Well, I look at it like this. What the fuck would you say? You just gonna go to the motherfucking court and say, yeah, this guy is troubled, and, this is what he did now. If this motherfucker's, if you could go on to court view, which I don't know if you could look up the same shit before or what you could look up now as you could before, but you used to be able to see basically a motherfucker's whole life on court view. If this whole cake has 1 or 2 pages on court view for themselves, what the fuck do you say to the judge if not that? Judge, friend, this motherfucker's got 2 pages alone in court view of shenanigans that he's been involved in, up to and including killing 3 motherfucking people. I don't give a fuck if it was 50 fucking years ago. He did it, but it wasn't 50 years ago. The fact of the matter is, since he had killed 3 damn people, and even up to just a couple years ago, he's still engaging in shit that he has no motherfucking business. And you as a damn prosecutor can't go to court and tell the judge this motherfucker is a menace and he needs to be locked up for a significant amount of time so that he doesn't continue to go out here and endanger the public with his motherfucking bad acts. No, she couldn't. This hoe said she's gonna call me back. She didn't. Why? Because she's a despicable, trash ass bitch. Them are just the facts. Anybody who has the opportunity to prosecute this cocksucker and hasn't gone out of their way to put this motherfucker in jail for the same 99 years that they give other motherfuckers who do shit they ain't got no business isn't for the people. It's not representing you. It's not trying to keep this community safe. And you see that shit because you see what the fuck goes on in the community. They're not for your best interest. Them are just the facts. You can't be for the people's best interest when you know motherfucker is what I would consider a serial murderer, okay, and also a fucking menace to the society that is tiny as fuck in that town, and you don't think that you need to be trying to keep his ass or her ass locked up for a lifetime? That shit is despicable. That is an example, or just another example of one of the many, many despicable fucking businesses that exist in the tiny fucking town of Anchorage, Alaska. And quite frankly, the fact that the town is so motherfucking small and you have so many people like that walking around that motherfucker, you can't possibly feel safe. Like, you can't. I mean, perhaps some people feel like they're safe, but if you knew the type of motherfuckers that was roaming around that bitch, you would probably think twice about how safe you could possibly fucking be. How a trip to the motherfucking Quickie Mart or the bodega or the motherfucking Mapco, for some Swisher sweets or what the fuck ever, could have your ass laying on the concrete and then ran over by another car because you got a serial fucking drunk driver driving around the fucking streets. I mean, that's the reality, right? So those are those are a couple of the examples that I have of the despicable business, the despicable business encounters that I've had personally, and that just has to do with from being a foster kid to us as an entire family being victimized by that one individual that took the life of 3 damn people in one night. There's a lot of bad motherfucking actors that have positions of authority in Anchorage, Alaska, and unfortunately, people don't speak on those things. People don't know about them, and so they can't go about engaging in such a way that protects themselves or protects their children or protects other people that they love. And that really needs to stop. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to talk about is divorce. And that kind of lumps in with child welfare agencies, in that divorce can cause a lot of strife. It could cause a lot of bitterness. It could cause a lot of heartache. It could tear a family apart. It just caused a lot of fucking damage. And I say that mainly because when you're in a divorce, the person who adjudicates the divorce typically doesn't know you from a can of paint. And even more so, they're not likely to look like you. If you're richly melanated, depending on where you live, you're probably even less likely to get a judge that looks like you. And even more importantly, the person who decides what's best for your children likely doesn't look like your children either. So I feel like those things kind of work those things work together. But like I said, I'll speak from my I'll speak about divorce, mine, because I know it personally. But I also say my mother's as a child, because my father was incarcerated when she and he got divorced. And so when I hear people talk about their divorce, or when I hear people talk about why they can't get divorced, or I gotta do this or I gotta do that, I think to myself how much more complicated people make shit than what it has to be. Okay, so I'll speak from my divorce personally, and then I feel like obviously not every judge is a trash person. But they're still humans. They're still people, right? There's no fucking robot adjudicating divorces. But judges are very disconnected from reality. And you can see that if you watch motherfucking YouTube court cases, divorce cases, CPS cases, you will see very clearly that there is a fucking disconnect between reality, between day-to-day life for a parent, and what the fuck they think should be going on, or what somebody has presented to them as being the day-to-day or week-to-week or month-to-month dealings when it comes to divorce or child custody or what have you. So I was married in Alaska. I was divorced in Kentucky. My ex-husband got our divorce papers, and let's be clear, for those ignorant motherfuckers who don't know, most divorce papers, and quite frankly, really most court documents are templates. A template is basically just a blueprint by which you're going to fill in the gaps. And most of y'all know what a fucking template is if you don't Google the shit. But he was able to get a template, right? He obviously Googled get divorced on paper, or you know, get easy divorce, right? Free 99 divorce, whatever, whatever bullshit he Googled. He was able to fill out a template for our divorce, and I never went to court. I've never went to court for divorce. We didn't stand in front of a judge to swear anything. We didn't not I never looked at the motherfucking judge who signed my divorce paper. I've never seen this motherfucker to his face. I don't know this asshole from a can of fucking paint. And my ex-husband never seen him either. He printed some shit off the computer, okay? He filled in the blanks with his terrible fucking handwriting, okay? And then he held our baby hostage. He held our baby hostage, and I laugh because this is how easy it is to get away with shit that you have no business, really. And this is how easy it is to submit documents that are just flat out either coerced or fucking false. Period. He held our brand new baby because our baby was probably 6 weeks, maybe. He was 6 weeks. He wanted me. We had to get the paper notarized, so we had to go stand in front of a notary. And because he was in the military, we could go on post to get shit notarized at the, I forget what it's called, the command center or whatever. So he came to the apartment and he took the baby and he said, "I'm not gonna give you the baby back until you get the divorce papers notarized." So, of course, I wasn't going to let this fucking dipshit keep my baby. So I went up there and I had the bitch notarize. You know, we stood in front of this bitch while she notarized our divorce papers. But in Kentucky, at the time, I don't know what it is now, I don't really give a shit, but at the time, you also had to complete parenting classes. To get a divorce if you had a kid. Well, I just had a kid, and I'll be damned if somebody is gonna tell me how to be a parent or give me parenting classes. First of all, our baby is literally brand fucking new, and you think that I'm gonna take a parenting class to get a divorce? First of all, no. Okay. Second of all, hell no. So what he did, my ex-husband, was he took his course and then he took my course. And all you had to do was sign off that you had taken those parenting classes, and you could take them online. Okay, this is long before the motherfucking Rona. Okay, so it wasn't like it was Corona season. It wasn't the Rona. It was just you could print your divorce template off the fucking internet. You could take your parenting classes on the internet and obviously portray yourself to be both parents, and then hold the baby hostage to get a notary to sign the damn papers. And that's exactly what he did. What else was included in the divorce petition, I guess you could say, before it gets adjudicated to just a petition, was the child support. And so what we did was I was unemployed at the time because I had literally, I say, maybe 10 weeks before I had my son, I had gotten out of the military. So I was super duper pregnant and I was about to pop. So I had just gotten out of the military, and he was still in, obviously. And I lost my train of thought. But I didn't have any income. All I had was savings because I'm just that type of person. Like, I always got a reserve fund. And he took So initially, he filled out the paper like we both had the same income. And I said, no, because I don't have any income. Period. I don't have any money. So you need to put down what you make a month, and then you need to put me down for a lesser amount. So what this trick ass motherfucker did was, because any party could have submitted the petition, what we signed, and obviously there's probably like 12 if not 20 pages of the petition, because you put the child support calculation there, you put the parenting plan, you know, who gonna have a baby this time, that time, the third time, who gonna have legal and physical custody. You put all that shit together, and you know, most of the time it's individual papers, not just one long continuous piece of paper. So what this asshole did was, what we had agreed upon was a certain amount, and that was what he was supposed to submit to the court. And instead, after I had, after he presented to me the financial breakdown, I was like, okay. What I came to find out later, when we received our actual divorce decree, was that he had went back and took out that individual piece of paper that didn't have to get notarized. Only one piece that had to be notarized, and it wasn't that. He took out that calculation, and he went in and he replaced that child support calculation document with what he wanted it to say, so that he wouldn't have to pay child support. Okay? So that's how fucking easy. Not only was it that easy to get a divorce, because you could print a template off the fucking internet, you could fill it out yourself, you could go get it notarized around the corner, you could be both parties to the motherfucking action, and circumvent the whole damn process. But that's how easy it was to I would say to basically to submit a fraudulent damn document about the financial breakdown. And so what he did was, he took the money that I had in my savings and claimed that as my income. And, you know, that was more than his actual income, but he was using my savings and calling that income. Okay, so then that nullified his child support. But I didn't know that until a couple months later, when I received my divorce decree, which says, yeah, y'all are divorced, and this is what y'all agreed to, and so this is what it's going to be. So after I, read through the papers, I saw exactly what the fuck he did. And I called the courthouse and I said, this is not the shit that I agreed to. And that's not a proper calculation. And her response was, well, you fill out the document, you sign it, you get it notarized, and you send it to us. And that's exactly what I did. And they changed the child support agreement, because what he was saying was fucking false, period. But that's how motherfucking easy it was to lie like a motherfucking rug, submit documents that knowingly and intentionally and purposely submitting documents to the court that you know to be motherfucking false, so that you can get out of the arrangement what you want and not have to do what it is that's your fucking responsibilities as a motherfucking father. That's my experience with divorce in Kentucky. I've never been married and divorced anywhere else, so I can only speak of divorce in Kentucky, and this was, what the hell is this year? 22, so we talking about like it's more than 9 years ago. Shit was like 11 years ago. Yeah, it was 11 years ago. 11 fucking years ago. That's how fucking easy it was. Now, maybe nowadays it's a little bit more complex. Maybe you got to get a few more documents notarized to show that both parties are actually present and actually, who they say they are, and this is actually what the agreement is. But that's how easy it was to get a divorce there, and that's how easy it was for motherfuckers to submit documents that were just flat out fucking false. and the court didn't bat a motherfucking eyelash about it. Even the fact that I told them that what he had sent in was a motherfucking lie, there was no sanction, there was no consequence for submitting something that was flat out false. And in part 2 of this, I'll tell you another state that I just called 2 weeks ago, and another clerk told me the same thing, that and I don't know if this is true in every state or all states or what state specifically, but in part 2 I'll talk about another clerk in another state that told me the same thing. I said, is it not basically problematic? Is it not sanction worthy when you submit documents to a court that you know are false? And some of you will be surprised at her answer. Some of you will be like, yeah, I knew that. Well, I mean, it's fucking problematic, especially when you're talking about somebody else who doesn't know you, doesn't give a fuck about you, and definitely doesn't give a fuck about your offspring, is making decisions based on false ass documents that they're receiving. In theory, and only in theory, are they actually reading over this shit and then making a decision that has implications for years and years and years, and the documentation that they're looking at is motherfucking false. It's fictitious. And not only that, but the person who gave it to you, who submitted it to the fucking courthouse to be used as evidence or to be used as a petition, knows that the shit is false, is a lie, and there's no sanction for that. So then it begs the question of, well, why the fuck would I ever be honest when I'm doing some shit like that, when I can just tell a barefaced lie and there's not going to be any consequences associated with that? But that's part 2. I spoke earlier on, when I speak about divorces, I hear a lot of people, and I mostly hear from guys when they say how hard it is to get divorced. And I hear a lot of motherfuckers say, oh, I need the money to get an attorney, or I gotta do this, or I gotta do that, or I need a lawyer. No, the fuck you don't. And let me tell you why. Cause I've never known a guy that needed to get divorced that actually owns some shit. Period. Motherfucker don't own a house, barely owns a car, don't have no investments in shit, barely got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. If you don't have any assets, what the fuck are you going to pay an attorney for to fill out a template? And how you know some shit is templates is if you ever taken the time to read through somebody else's court documents, what will you see? A bunch of fucking errors. Why will you see errors? Because motherfuckers, when they're filling out a template, don't really take the time to read through the documents and make sure that their tenses make sense, that all the information that they're filling in makes sense. That's how you know motherfuckers are using templates, but they're also not even taking the time to read it back and make sure that everything flows together. So when I hear somebody who doesn't own anything say that they need a lawyer, I'm baffled, because you don't own anything, and you definitely don't own anything with this woman who you're trying to divorce. So what the fuck is the point? And even further, if you all don't have a child in common, what the fuck are you getting a lawyer for? To do what? To fill out the damn papers for you? If you're smart, you'll go get the fucking template yourself. You'll fill it in yourself. And if you're smarter, agree. Before you even submit your shit to court, if you don't own shit with this other person and y'all don't have kids, the best thing for y'all to do is agree to everything that's going to be in that document, file it together, and cut the middleman out. Why the fuck are y'all both going to go out and pay a lawyer $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 for a divorce when you not getting shit, she not getting shit? Y'all both going home empty-handed, and $5,000 to $10,000 less money in your pocket for them to do nothing more than fill out a fucking template. That's it. Fill out a template, turn into the court. You may or may not ever look a judge in the fucking face, because every time you get divorced, you don't have to go to court and look a motherfucker in the face. How you know that? How many people been married to a motherfucker that's in jail? How many motherfuckers done been divorced by a motherfucker that's in jail? A motherfucker in jail typically don't own shit. They typically don't own shit. My dad has never owned a fucking thing in his life. How I know? Because I know. He don't own shit. He didn't own shit, period. He was in jail when my mother and my father got divorced. I bet nickels to motherfucking dimes. He didn't get a motherfucking attorney in jail. he wasn't calling up a motherfucking attorney, okay? He wasn't sitting down in front of a motherfucking attorney. She, with 5 hot ass kids, did not go out and get a fucking attorney to divorce a fucking jailbird. It doesn't even make fucking sense. So when I hear a motherfucker tell me I need to get this money for a lawyer or I need a lawyer to do this, that's what you want. You want a lawyer because then it means that you can absolve yourself of the responsibility of filling out the motherfucking paperwork, getting the paperwork motherfucking notarized, filing in the motherfucking courthouse, and waiting to hear back from the motherfucking court. Period. Now again, I don't know every state because I ain't been married and divorced in every state. But I know enough about divorce in Alaska and motherfucking Kentucky to know you don't need a fucking lawyer. So when a motherfucker says, I need a lawyer, you need a lawyer for what? Because I need them to try to get my kids, or I need them to do this, that, and the third. No, you don't. And your lawyer isn't going to get you anything. Your lawyer is going to ask for some shit. The judge is going to be the one who says yes, no, maybe so to whatever the fuck it is that you're asking for. Okay? Because that's all the fuck you're doing. Is you're asking the court to give you or to allow you to have X, Y, and Z. Your lawyer doesn't get you shit. They just ask for what it is, frivolous or not, shit that you want in comparison to the other person. So, if that's what the hell it's gonna be, then just cut the fucking middleman out, and you and the person who should love your flesh, if that's all that you have in common as children, if the two of you flying monkey bitches cannot come to an agreement about your children, so much so that you want a perfect fucking stranger to decide for you what's best for your children, you have bigger fucking mental fish to fry. Like, for real. If you think a person that doesn't know you from a can of paint somehow it has your child's best interest at heart better than you, better than the other motherfucker who you procreated with, whatever you feel about this person now, you fucked them once, twice, 3 times, whatever. You procreated with this ass flake. But in that, if you feel like a motherfucker who you have not procreated with has your best child's interest in mind when they assess the situation and then decide who gets what with your child, that's some deranged shit to me. I don't ever think, and I'll never believe, that a perfect fucking stranger knows better than me, or even as trash as my ex-husband is, he and I don't disagree about shit. And it's not like there's a whole bunch of shit that we're working together on. But if I ask this motherfucker some common sense shit or some parental shit, there's never been a disagreement about it. We'll disagree about child support 7 days a week, okay? And actually, we didn't even, the last time we spoke, we did not disagree about child support. It's him doing what he's supposed to do to keep his ass in a good position. But it's never been I don't think I should have to take care of my child. I sure don't think that that he needs to eat. It's not that. We don't disagree that he has an obligation to his child, and most reasonable people won't. Reasonable people, a lot of y'all motherfuckers ain't reasonable. Reasonable people won't disagree that both parents have an obligation to their child. You may disagree about what amount that obligation is, but you're probably not going to disagree that you both have a financial obligation to your flesh. So then it becomes a question of do we have enough sense between the both of us to come to a reasonable agreement about how much you're going to give or how much you're going to receive? And I feel like that's what a lot of the discourse is I want you to be doing this and you want to be doing this. So let's let a perfect stranger decide what's best for our kid instead of us being able to decide what's best for our kid. I feel like that's the downfall for a lot of motherfuckers is you're leaving these very critical decisions up to a perfect stranger. And most people, whatever position they end up in and they end up getting, whether you get what you ask for or not, you think that it's favorable to you. Well, child support is for your child, it's not for you. But in the end, if it causes such detriment in your relationship with your child's father, in your child's father or mother's relationship with their child, ultimately that doesn't help the child, right? That's not to the benefit of the child if you break a motherfucking man or woman so much that they don't want to contribute at all. They dumb down their self so that they don't have to contribute at all. Those things don't equal a healthy child. They may say, okay, well, I got to work so much more to make up for what I have to give, which means what? I have less time, physical time with my flesh because now I'm having to do more to maintain this simple lifestyle. And you're looking at it is, okay, you should be paying the money, and they're looking at it, well, now I have to spend more time away from my child, and ultimately that time away afflicts negatively the children. So when I talk about despicable businesses, judges, lawyers, CPS, child custody, those are institutions that are created to take your motherfucking money because you got to pay to file. You got to pay to refile. You want a copy, you got to pay. You want a certified copy, you got to pay for that. You want a lawyer, you got to pay that asshole. You want to go to trial, you got to pay for that. Every fucking step of the motherfucking way, you got to pay. Your child is in child's custody. They put the child on child services. They want you to pay for that. If they put your child in foster care, they want you to pay. The fucking money doesn't end. So it's all these businesses that take profit because it's profitable. Okay, otherwise they wouldn't be doing this shit if it wasn't profitable. Profiting from you interjecting them into your motherfucking familyhood, your family life, your livelihood, and letting a perfect group of strangers dictate how you have to move and act for the rest of your life or for the rest of your child's life before they become an adult, rather than you as an adult, you and another hopefully reasonable person being able to take them out of the equation altogether and come to some type of mutual agreement where you're not supposed to be happy after divorce, right? You're literally not supposed to be happy. I don't give a fuck. I should be happy. You're not. You're fucking not. You're not supposed to be happy. You should be fine. You should be fine, but you shouldn't be fucking happy because your family is dismantled. There should be no happiness about dismantling your family. I mean, I don't know why the fuck a person would think that after dismantling their family that there's supposed to be some fucking party about that. I was sad as fuck when I got my divorce decree because it officially meant my family was dismantled. This little core group that we had was officially, cut into pieces, and that shit was heartbreaking for me. So I don't know. I personally don't feel like divorce is supposed to create a sense of happiness as much as it should just allow you to be fine. And you should be okay being fine, right? You can move on and be happy. But the divorce itself and the dismantling of your family that divorce creates is not meant to be happy. because what was once one is now how many different pieces, right? I mean, it could be into many different pieces. So that's part of, despicable, a despicable business is definitely divorce courts. It's definitely child custody courts. It's family. What they call family courts. It should be called broken family court. That's what the fuck they should call. They should call that shit a broken family court because it ain't. You don't see nobody in that bitch happy. Even the motherfucker who the judge is saying good shit, they don't know this motherfucker. They don't know that asshole. But the judge could be saying everything that you want to hear. Your family is broken as fuck. You got a bunch of people sitting in the room. You don't know these cocksuckers. That shit is it's despicable. But it's business. And the people running this shit, I mean, not all of them are despicable, right? But many of them know exactly what the fuck they're doing. The more that they can prolong the shit means, guess what? You gotta pay. Okay? The more dismantling that they do, you gotta pay. So it's all about fucking you over, fucking him or her over, fucking them kids over, because ultimately, the more they fuck you, the more you gotta come back to them to get what it is that you want, right? And if it was about families, it would be more about keeping shit together. These family courts are about breaking shit apart. So it should really be called a broken family court. Okay, let's just call it what the fuck it is and how it operates. It operates to break your shit down, have your shit here, there, and every fucking where else, have you mentally and financially broke the fuck down so that now you gotta seek some services. And what that means? That means you gotta put money in somebody else's pocket about some despicable fucking shit. You may end up having to do some shit that you didn't even come to court to do, and some asshole don't know you is going to assess the situation based off paperwork and then make judgments about your life just like that. Period. So those are those nuggets. And like I said, I'm a firm believer in, first of all, being frugal. Okay, keep your motherfucking money in your pocket. Stop trying to give the shit to everybody else. If there is something that you can do yourself, do it. It may seem complex, it may seem intimidating, but the satisfaction that you'll have from doing it yourself and knowing that you saved yourself money, knowing that you saved yourself time, knowing that you saved yourself headache, but also knowing that you kept other people out of your fucking business who don't have your best interest at heart will save you a lot of fucking headache. And hopefully will allow you to work with the person who you procreated with to break up your family less, to kind of keep some things intact that you can keep intact. That's very important. Try to keep as much shit as intact as you can, and try not to have somebody who can't possibly care or love your children the way hopefully you and the motherfucker you procreated with do, so that you're not taking more away from your family. And again, that everybody's situation is going to be different. You're going to move differently. You're going to, like I said, if you have assets and things like that, sometimes that shit can get tricky. But that also goes with making good decisions with who you tie the knot with, right? Who you get into a covenant with. A lot of those things should be ironed out before you ever even get married, or if you feel like divorce is somewhere in your future, even if you don't feel like it's somewhere in your future, you should just have a plan. Just have a plan. Have an individual plan and have a family plan, and keep the shit updated. Keep your shit updated. Okay? Let me see. Another thing that I'll speak on briefly is it goes back to broken family courts and the subsequent, I would say, abuses that happen. So, like I said, you can go on to YouTube and literally, like Monday through Friday, you can see child custody cases and shit like that. You can see them giving folks kids away over the course of a year, just really sad fucking shit, honestly. But I know kids they didn't grow up in Anchorage. Some of these kids grew up in the valley, outside of Anchorage in these smaller towns. But one thing that I've heard more consistently than not is, when courts adopt kids away from their family, and it's not just adopt them away from their mom and dad, but it also could be that they don't even allow these children to be with their maternal or paternal grandmothers or grandfathers or maternal or paternal aunts and uncles, right? They take these children and they adopt them off to perfect fucking strangers. And more times than not, that perfect stranger does not look like them. Whether it's a native kid that goes to a house full of white folks, whether it's a biracial child that goes to a house full of white folks, a lot of the times, those children that are being given to strangers don't look like them. And one thing that I feel like is a pattern of what I hear is the mistreatment or abuse that those children suffer from after being adopted off into families of people that don't look like them. But more importantly, couldn't give a fuck about them like they do, or like they would have been their own flesh. I am a strong advocate of, if you're going to take a child out of their home, you better be putting them in the home of a relative. Because most of the time they're going to be able to relate, right? They're going to be able to look in a fucking mirror, look at that auntie, uncle, cousin, grandma, grandpa. That person's going to, they can identify with that person. If you put a child in a home where it's a bunch of random ass motherfucking kids, they can't identify with anybody in there. And then as they grow up, they begin to realize that, hey, I don't look like anybody in this house. Hey, I'm not treated like these other kids are. Some of the kids are their biological children. Some of them are other adopted fucking kids. So at some point, the child looks around and says, who the fuck are all these? Like, why the fuck am I here? Okay, that's really what it turns out to be. They say, why the fuck am I here? Like, I can't relate to any of them. They can't relate to me. I'm being mistreated, maybe physically or sexually abused by a sibling, maybe physically or sexually abused by an adopted uncle or dad or who the fuck ever. It could also be that this child also experiences just being treated badly, or being treated differently than the other children, because not only does the caregiver know this isn't my flesh, but the children start to understand and know this isn't really my brother, this isn't really my sister, we're not all really related, we're just a bunch of adopted orphans, whatever the fuck you want to call it. We're just a bunch of rando kids living with these rando people. And I've heard about abused children adopted more than I've heard about more than I've heard about adopted children having these great lives. And don't get me wrong, there's probably, well, I won't say there's countless adoptive stories where you would, without question, your life is better as an adopted child than it would have been had you been with your mother or father. That's not to say that if you would have been placed with another relative that you still would not have had a quality life. But had you been placed with your mother or father, your life probably would have been far worse than what it is, than what it was having these adopted parents. So I'm not against, anybody who wants to take care of somebody else's child if they mean well. But I hear and see more often adopted kids who were mistreated in one way or another, in one form or another. And that, I believe, has to do with the fact that when a person is attempting to adopt a child, or when courts are taking children from their parents and putting them in homes of other people and they're adopting them off, it really is not about the best interest of the fucking child. Because, again, some of these kids end up in homes where they are mistreated. I mean, and if you've read any news, or you don't read and you just listen to the news, or you just scroll through your motherfucking phone and you see shit, you've seen examples of motherfuckers who adopt a house full of kids and kill every goddamn body. Kill every fucking one of the kids. Break the kid's neck, burn the kid up, allow everybody in the neighborhood to fuck them. You know, they do all kind of foul ass shit. And that to me is like, I don't give a fuck if you adopt somebody's kid off or not. What you better do is randomly check up. Like, and you may say, well, I'm just their parent, and when somebody check up on a biological mom or dad, yeah, they're motherfucking kinfolk. Okay? Somebody would ask some motherfucking questions. Period. Yeah, I don't get to just, even when it's just me and my one flesh, there isn't an extended period of time that I go before a motherfucker commits to calling me up on the phone at what's going on, how is he or she doing, what are you guys up to? I mean, I can't go 3, 4, 5 motherfucking months without somebody checking the fuck up, you know, without calling and saying, hey, what's going on? How y'all doing? You know, send me a picture. It's this holiday, it's that holiday. Period. And I feel the same way. When a court takes somebody's child away from them, and more importantly, when they take someone's child away from them permanently, and they put them in the home of a stranger, why the fuck doesn't anybody, I don't give a fuck if it's every 5 years, why doesn't somebody go and check and make sure that these kids are where you left them, they're being taken care of like you intended, you know, there's no abuse going on, there's no mistreatment, there's no maltreatment. Why doesn't anybody go and make sure that everything is everything, right? Because it's a business transaction. You know, it's not, if it was about the welfare of the child, then you should follow through. It shouldn't be transactional, right? If you think that you know what's best for the child, then prove it. Because there's plenty of cases where people adopt kids and they mistreat those children. And nobody, you know, bats an eyelash. Courts don't, you know, necessarily change how they operate when they're adopting these children off, and then you just create another generation of kids that have a whole host of issues because a stranger intervened, a stranger placed them with another stranger, and then left them there. And then now you grew up with, you know, this dysfunctional life. Now you go out and you procreate and you create dysfunction. You know, you grew up with dysfunction, you go out and you procreate dysfunctionally, you procreate with another motherfucker who's dysfunctional, and then you create a whole nother set of dysfunction. And so, like I said, to me it's just another example of despicable business. There's all these organizations, institutions, entities, businesses that operate under the guise that what they do is in one party's best interest versus another. But if you look at the pattern of shit that happens behind the scenes, you see that what they say and what they do and the outcome of that shit usually don't match what the mission is. So that's why I say it's fucking important to call people out by name. You know, don't just say DFYS or OCS, or don't just say, if I knew the name of my judge, I'd name his dumb ass. But don't just say the company name, right? If you can identify an individual who's doing that shit, air they ass out. Because when you, and more importantly, don't be so scared to speak on a situation that you won't air out the situation, period. Right? Don't be so prideful or ashamed of something that you don't air out the situation itself because you either feel like you're to blame or you feel like people will judge you. I'm more so going to judge the motherfuckers who are instrumental in keeping the situation motherfucking messy. You know, I realize that not everybody has the fucking brain power, the brain capacity to cut through bullshit. But there's plenty of people that do have the brain power and the capacity to cut through bullshit and see shit for what it is. And when you can be more specific about who and what's fucking you over, when you can air the shit out like it needs to be aired out, then people know, okay, if I fuck around over here, this is this is a possible outcome. If I fuck around with this individual, as far as this town has these representatives, and any one of them could end up in my face. If you know this judge act like this judge act like this judge act like this, you can operate accordingly. You'll know what the fuck you're getting into, hopefully before you ever even end up in it, and that way you know how to engage in certain situations. We would better be able to help each other out if we aired motherfuckers out for the shit that they do. So that's what I say about Despicable Business. Check out my Facebook group called, what did I say? Is it Airing Out Despicable Business? Because I'm a firm believer in naming names, naming institutions, businesses, organizations, entities, naming that shit. Period. Naming the people who are engaged in that shit. Because if I know who's acting a certain way, I can dodge that motherfucker, right? I can curve that asshole like I want to. And then I can inform other people. This is what this motherfucker did. This is how this person operated. This is how this person operates. It would behoove you to either operate with this person in this type of manner or curb that motherfucker altogether. We would save each other if we would just tell each other who the bad actors are. And then we know, okay, either you're going to take your chance and think you're going to get a different result, and perhaps you will. Or you can say, you know what? I'm not even going to take my chances. I'll take this other route and I'll see what I get from going this way. I feel like that's the best thing that we could do for each other, is to keep each other abreast of the shit that causes, especially us richly melanated people, keep each other abreast of the motherfuckers that cause detriment, that cause harm, that help dismantle, that are keep each other abreast of people whose objective is to fuck us over. It's to take advantage of us. It's to break apart our families. Is to break our pockets, right? Keep each other abreast of that shit. And that way we can move accordingly. As I always say, the more you know. The more you know, the more information that you are empowered with to make a better, more informed decision. And I also say this, like I said before, I'm a firm believer in reviews, but take reviews with a grain of salt. That's why I never look at all the positive reviews. I always look at the negative things, because it's so easy for a motherfucker to come through and say, this is such a great place, everything's great, it's great, it's great, it's great. But when a motherfucker go in on another motherfucker about how trash that person is, people are typically not going to go out of their way, log in, and commence to using their opposable fucking thumbs to say some shit about somebody if what the fuck they're saying ain't true. Now again, plenty of people lie up one side and down the next. But if you see a pattern of behavior, if you see a pattern of statements, everybody isn't a fucking liar. There's a lot of liars, but everybody isn't lying. So, it's like I even said with dating. I don't ever ask a guy, what's the best thing that a girl can say? I don't give a fuck about what the best thing this bitch gonna say about you. You know what I want to know? What's the worst motherfucking thing that a bitch is gonna say about you? Period. What's the worst thing that she's going to say about you? Because if I hear what the worst thing is that she can say, then I can assess that comment, I can assess that situation, and I can decide whether or not that terrible fucking shit this person is gonna say about you is so terrible that I don't wanna fuck with you. And it's the same thing with a review. What's the worst fucking thing somebody is saying about this business? And does that move me enough to say, that's gonna be a no thank you? That's gonna be a hell no, that's gonna be a hard no, that's gonna be a negative. That is how I usually assess a situation. What's the worst thing being said? Can I fucking deal with that? And if the answer is no, then the answer is no. So that's how I will conclude this Despicable Business part 1. I will be back. I don't know when I'll do part 2, but I will try to keep it close to this one. That way it's not so choppy. And like I said, in the part 2, I'm going to discuss my sister's, I'm gonna say I'll discuss her divorce, but I will discuss many of the institutions, organizations, businesses, entities that were instrumental in ruining her life. And like I said, I'm big on dropping the names of places and dropping the names of people because look them up yourself, right? You can see if they're your neighbor, if there's somebody that you've ever engaged with, that you may find that at some point you may engage with this person. But I feel like what's extremely important is that at the very least you will know, you'll know more, you'll be better informed, and then you can move how you wish. And so if you have any questions, comments, let me know. You keep your concerns, talk to a therapist. But if you have any questions, let me know. Like I said before, be sure to check out goldfacefamily.com. We will have some summer drip dropping. I probably won't put it. I might do it this week. If not this week, I'll have it up next week, and then I'll have even more after that. So check us out on our website. Be sure to like. Be sure to subscribe, and hit the notification button, right? So that if I'm not regular, right, about my episodes, that you can be notified when I do update, when I do post another episode, or when I post new content, period, because periodically I like to post about the other things that I do, as far as the apparel, and as far as my little cooking reels that I do, because I like to show you some quick, easy meals that I like to put together, but also just sometimes it's just a hack, right? Some putting 2-3 things together that you cut out a whole bunch of the cost for, so that you can save money. Because for me, it's all about being parsimonious, it's about being frugal, it's about keeping your money in your pocket and not going out here and putting a bunch of money in somebody else's pocket for some bullshit that you can create at home for a fraction of the price. And for those of us who actually go to the motherfucking grocery store, you see them high ass motherfucking grocery prices. Like I'm pretty sure I said in my last podcast, prices for everything is sky motherfucking high. So if you like to save money and shit like that, check me out, and you may find that you can cut the cost on some bullshit and keep some money in your pocket, or allocate it to something else that's more pressing in your life. So that is it for Airing It Out with Ariel, episode 7, part 1, Despicable Business. Like I said, be sure I'll put my Facebook group, Despicable Business, in the description, so y'all can check me out on there. Hey, add your experiences with despicable businesses. Keep me abreast of some despicable motherfucking businesses so that I know who to curve the fuck out of, right? So that I can look up some shit and see what the fuck, not only hopefully that you said about them, but that other people said about them, and keep motherfuckers abreast of some shit. And yeah, on there I'll be posting about other despicable businesses that I've encountered, where people have just really acted in an inappropriate way, and it's in, I would say, the community's best interest to know, and so that they can protect themselves. So that is it. I'll see you next time. Be safe, be healthy, and be good to each other.